Hey everybody, Doug here from 2 Plus Tough. Sorry for the delay there. Everything is fine, just had to have some little internet trouble, of course, because that's how Friday mornings start, is internet trouble. So anyway, if you're new here, I always do this little intro in the beginning. Hi, my name is Doug with 2 Plus Tough, and this is my weekly live show right now, where basically we just review the news of the week, talk about some hobby progress, and then we always have a main topic to kind of go through, just to chat, relax, give you something to listen to while you're painting. And this time that I do this is more specifically for folks over in Europe and that kind of time zone. So I hope that you enjoy it. Pretty soon here, I'm going to be actually able to do multiple live streams a week to catch folks in different time zones. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and let me know what time zone you're in down below, and I'll try to find like good medians for the US and possibly Australia, that kind of thing. So yeah, we are all set. I want to give a shout out to Cody Griffin for he already donated $5 just to poke fun at me. Thank you so much, Cody. So yeah, today's topic we're going to be reviewing, obviously, like I said, the hobby progress that I did this week. The news from Games Workshop specifically, because I couldn't find much news from anywhere else. And then we'll talk about the main topic for today, which is painting motivation. So how do you get that fire back to start painting again? Because sometimes you just kind of lose the spark, if you will. And so that's what we're going to be doing today. And so, thank you all. You're all so kind in the chat. I feel like I'm reforging, Brent. That's awesome. And so the way it works is, most live shows, they'll stop and like welcome every single person in the chat. I don't do that because it gets boring. I don't like when other people do it. So what I'm going to do is basically in between each segment of the show, I'll open it up for questions, comments, that kind of thing. And we'll just kind of go there when we get to it. Spezia, thank you so much for your donation. That means the world to me. You guys are awesome. I'm in CST. Okay. Right on. CST. All right. I think I'm going to have to do the Midwest times to catch everyone in the US. So, without further ado, let's see. What do I always start with? Hobby progress. Yeah, let's do that. So, after you've been blinded by the light of God, apparently, my camera, the webcam up here doesn't adjust very, very quickly to light changes. Haven't gotten a ton of hobby progress in this week. For those of you who don't know, if you're new to the channel, I'm kind of gearing up for a move. I live in the Seattle area right now. We're moving to the Midwest, and so this whole week has been like, collecting packing materials, and I downsized a lot of my. I didn't downsize my collection of games and miniatures in the sense that I sold anything off, but I like repackaged them, packed them, I guess, and to make them a little more space efficient now that I'm kind of like done with them until we move, so I don't need to have them like in ready access. So I did a whole bunch of that. So that's like, I consider it hobby progress, but it's not like visible paint progress, So beyond that, we have, I just did the base purple that I do for my Nurgle demons on these guys. I missed the Nurgling here, of course. And if you're not familiar, my demons, they do have this like sickly pink purple going on, and what that is just a 2-to-1 mix of Magos Purple Contrast and Contrast Medium. And that's all it is. You just liberally wash them. This is the base color that everything else is based off of. And what's cool about it is the reason I truly like this scheme is because everything pops off of this purple just like it does white. By that I mean, I go in and I use yellow as kind of like my gross demon color, like for glowing eyes and pustules and all that kind of stuff. The yellow pops right off the purple, looks awesome. And then I go in with a little bit of a Thonian camo shade, which is kind of like the dark green, almost camo looking wash from GW, hints in the name. And I go through and just pick out all the sores and that kind of thing. And that green also pops really well off the purple. And so, yeah, that's what I was doing. So I got the 3 of these good to go. Here's actually the base for Horticulus Slimix. The bases for my models are typically, the entire thing is covered with the board. However, he's got a plow behind him. And so what I was going to do was have him set just like that, so the rock kind of touches the shell there, and the plow is actually in the filth And he actually sits perfectly level on that. It's awesome. And essentially, I'm going to do the wooden planks as normal. And then over here, I'm going to do, if you've ever seen the, I think Duncan was the one who did it on GW forever ago, but swamp bases, where basically you paint this whole area like Caliban green, dark, dark, dark green. And then you build up layers of Nurgle's rot on top of it. And so it looks like this dark green, soupy swampness. And so doing that, and then I also have on order some water effects. So I'll put some ripples, almost like the plow is coming through the nastiness. So yeah, that is my plan for him. I'm very excited about this guy. He's actually one of the coolest models I've painted in a while. I did, one thing I will say, I did the paint mixture I had was beginning to dry as I got to him, and so Horticulus himself, he's a little more purple than I want, and so I'm going to take some Celestra Gray, I think, or yeah, probably Celestra Gray, and just do a very light dry brush just to kind of soften him up a bit, kind of push the purple more towards the recesses. But, you know, I mean, that's honestly why I do it. It's a very easy fix. So if you ever go too intense with those colors, it is easy peasy to fix. Let me pull the chat up here so I can see y'all talking. Cody Nurgle grosses me out. That's all right. Grosses me out too, but I still love it. And then over here we have the... oh my gosh, I can't remember the name of the warband, but it's the Underworld's warband for Nurgle, which I've already decided. I'm going to throw this out there. The minute that this warband comes onto Warhammer Underworlds online, I'm in like Flynn, because I love these models. These guys are incredible. I want to see this guy specifically with the spear in his arm be like 3D animated so bad. But yeah, so that's where I am at with these guys. Yeah, I think that's about it. I have a big tub of my other primed stuff, but like I said, a lot of the week has just been condensing is probably the right word. I also forgot that I have him, Spoilpox Scrivener. So yeah, as far as what else? Last little note on these guys is Underworld's warbands come with like done bases, like they already have textures and stuff. I was going to have them be on the same wooden bases as everyone else, but the problem is with these models, a lot of times like the front part of their foot will be a part of the base. So you're not necessarily like, you know, if I was just to take this same model and put him on here, he'd be missing portions of his leg or foot. And so I was like, well, honestly, I'm probably just going to fill in the little gaps here with the same Nurgle green swamp effect as this to kind of tie them in. And I'll put some seaweed and stuff like that on them. But honestly, like their bases are pretty generic to the point where I really don't think they're not going to stand out. You know what I mean? Like once they're in the blue armor that the rest of my Nurgle's in, or the mortal stuff is in, they won't stand out. So I'm not really worried about that. I think what are they? The Beasts of Chaos warband I did because all of their feet were completely separate from the bases. I actually was able to go and put them on the wooden one. So I have that warband all ready to roll on the nice, custom bases that I'm doing. And so I'm going to pause here because that's my hobby progress for the week. You know, a lot of it is off-camera stuff. But I wanted to throw the question out there. So this is like I talked about before. If you have anything you want to comment on, I'm going to open it up. And I'll just ramble for a little bit while the questions come in. Because there's kind of like a 1.5 minute delay between when I say something and you guys, I see your message. So I'll open it up. If you have any questions, comments, criticisms, or tell me what you're working on, you're more than welcome to. On this guy, one thing I want to try is I have that really, really dark blue contrast for the Ultramarines, and I want to try it on his shell and see how it looks on such a textured surface. And that way, if I don't like it, I can always go back over with the same Night Lord's blue that I use for the armor on my mortal stuff, and that'll look cool. But I'm curious to see how it will look. And that's, honestly, for me personally, I just experiment with stuff. Not to be comically Bob Rossi, but there's nothing you can do on this that you can't fix later, honestly. And so like Bob Ross always said, we don't make mistakes, just happy accidents. It tends to be my perspective as well. I'm excited to I talked about earlier how the Athenian camo shade really pops, and so getting into all these little ridges with that darker color is going to make the slug look awesome. So I got a question from Jacob. How are you, Doug? Hope you're doing good. I am good. Yeah, just woke up a bit ago. Had terrible internet trouble. I was supposed to be playing like Total War or something with Jack from Rerolling Ones last night, and my internet would just go out every 10 to 15 minutes, and then this morning I had to call customer service. Anyway, we're doing good. Just took a bit to get up and running. Spezia, question. I've been doing prosecutors, okay. I want to do a cloud effect. Have the scroll things look like they're coming out of the clouds. Ideas on how to make storm clouds. I need to get back to you on that, because the only thing I've ever seen people do is like cotton balls, but they don't work for me like scale-wise. They tend to not look great. But I don't know. I got to think about that. But that's a cool idea, though. Let's see. Zozis asks a loaded question. Did you blow off Jack again? Somewhere right now he's chuckling. No, I didn't. I actually had internet trouble. We just kind of sat by candlelight. We had a storm come through yesterday, and I don't know what it is, but my block, like across the street, is just a huge open field, so you can kind of get the sense of like, if it were anywhere else, you'd be like, oh, we're out in the boonies. This is where civilization ends. But it kind of keeps going afterwards. But my block, our power was just like, just flickering off and on. Let's see. Can you come paint my army for me, please, or at least send intravenous motivation? Zozies, what do you paint? Like, I know you are a Nagash fan, but I don't actually know what army you play. Interesting. Biofoot, really want to hear your thoughts on how the Sons of Behemoth are going to work. Like, how many models can there be in the range? How they fit? Biofoot, I don't have the answers to that yet, because they haven't sent me a battle tome or anything. But I am deeply interested in those as well. And so I do intend to have a video that's just like Sons of Behemoth and army building. Like specifically, like how does this work in relation to other factions? Because it does seem that it's going to be very, very unique. So yeah, I'm on board with you. The second that comes out, it'll happen. Small tribute for a new router. Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, I'm gonna be shopping this weekend. I don't want to take this with me to Iowa. It's a hunk of junk. All right. Let's see. Question: starting Iron Jaws, and honestly, I've got AP with starting to paint. Brent, I don't know. I've got AP with starting to paint. Can you define AP for me? Green skin first, prime yellow. Oh, okay. You got a question about what to do first. I would always say, when it comes to painting specifically, you always want to start with the deeper part of the model. So for the vast majority of Ironjaw stuff, because I have painted Ironjaws quite a bit, I would start with the skin. And then that way, if you need to, you can, like, because the skin is further in, then you can do the armor on top of that. And so just be a little more careful when you're painting the armor, but yeah, you should be good. That's definitely where I would start. Let's see. Building my new Greywater box. That's awesome. I love it. Actually, for the first time, I was reading the Warcry. The Warcry rules for Cities of Sigmar that came out in this month's White Dwarf, and I was like, I need dwarves. I think I texted my group of friends, and I'm pretty sure everyone in the world collectively heard the eye roll from them. So sorry about that, because I do that every once in a while. I'm like, man, I need this army, and everyone's like, you want to play test it first? I'm like, no, we're just gonna cannonball in and then sell it in 2 months. Hello, Ben. How are you doing, friend? Sweet. Okay, internet looks stable. Looks like we're doing good. If it goes out, I apologize, friends, but I'm working with what I got. So, it's still super windy out. I think I'm about done with the painting section. The questions slowed down, so we're going to move into the news. So let me pull that up here. Spezia, yes, Doug, you need dwarves. I didn't realize that was a, well, I know it was a fan favorite. I didn't know it was like a chat favorite here. So we're over here at the Games Workshop news thing, and I always bring up the main page just to show it off, so if new folks have never heard of it, Warhammer Community is kind of like a running blog and that kind of thing for all Games Workshop stuff. But I went ahead and pulled up all of the articles, and I try to do it in order of how interested I am in it, so that's up to you if you agree or not, but whatever. Let's see. Actually, I'm going to leave the painting cam set up because we're going to be painting here in a bit as we talk about motivation. So, yes, in this current White Dwarf, we do have rules for Cities of Sigmar, and there's like, I think it's either 14 or 18 entries, like they have different units, and essentially they come down to just a handful of kits. This exact article, up for a challenge, is a Warcry one that basically, it's a good article, it's very well written. All it does is pretty much stoke the fires for people like myself who are excited for the next expansion for Warcry. And Zoe, I saw your question. No, I don't have a date for it yet, sadly. I don't, unless there's one in the bottom. But essentially what this article is doing is just recapping some of the missions that are in the Tome of Champions. So let's see. Grab a copy. No, I'm not seeing a date anywhere, but that's all right. That's all right. Let them get the 40K out of their system, and then we'll have our day in the sun. So yeah, so all of these missions that they're recapping with this really cool art and stuff, it all already exists in the Tome of Champions, and they were just kind of throwing out there like, hey, you should buy this book because I bet, this is just my own speculation, that Jacob, she's now crying. Oh, that's awesome. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for everything. No date, but I do wonder how the Tome of Champions things will interact with the new like dungeon style thing that we're getting. Because I'm very, very interested in that. Like, I'm hyper interested in, if you guys haven't seen it, let's see if I can find it here. Articles, Warcry. It was very recent. Here we go. Forgive me, I'm just gonna shoot around, so if you are prone to motion sickness, buckle up, Buttercup. Okay. And booyah. Okay. So the new box that's coming out has this thing in it. If you guys haven't seen it, just really, really do like the idea of it. One of the things that this inspired me to do, though, was I started looking online for, like, sometimes people who play, like, D&D will use, like, three-dimensional dungeons. And so I was looking at those because I was like, oh, man, wouldn't that be freaking sweet if you put this terrain, like all the little cool doors and that kind of thing, and put it on a way where, you know, there's actual 3D corridors and that kind of stuff. I think it would just look cooler. But as a basic... kind of outline of stuff, I think it's really, really nice. So I'm excited about that. I'm really interested to see if they deepen the game up with actions like opening, I guess you can already open and close doors, can't you? I'm trying to think. I was actually reading my Warcry rulebook last night because it's been so long since I busted it out. I was packing everything up and I was like, oh man, I don't know why this last week I was like, I just freaking love this game, and I don't know why I put it down. Mainly because I got tired after I wrote the solo play variant, but yeah, I don't know. It was pretty cool. Let's see. You guys are funny. Let's see. Cody Griffin, I demand you motivate me now for my white scars. We'll get you, buddy. I got a few ideas how to motivate you. So yeah, I'm excited about that. Like I said, I'm curious to see how well this will play with the Tome of Champions stuff. I love... as much as this other article is a ad, essentially, for Tome of Champions, so is everything that I do with Warcry, because I think it was really the release that it kind of needed the Tome of Champions to be a part of it, to add that next layer. And so if you guys see one for cheap, or pop into your local store, I highly recommend it. It's a cool book. Let's see. I wonder if the lava and fire doesn't affect flying units. That's an interesting idea. I guess the question at that point is, how firm are the walls that we're talking about? Like, for example, like I'm sorry to follow the mouse here, but like on these edges where it separates like the left corridor from the center stage, like that whole lava pit, like, because jump is a style of movement in Warcry, and so like if you had a high enough movement that you were starting on one end and the distance was enough that you could make it to the other, is this free to cross, or do you have to take the bridge? Like, are these supposed to be walls? I don't have an answer for you. My gut tells me that they are not walls, because if you look around the map, you can actually see these darker shades that I think are more representative of walls. So it might be that those kinds of edges, like up here, you might be able to jump them. I don't know. That's crazy. I've got a few ideas to motivate you. Rated X for extremely good. All right. So, that is where we are at. So, yeah, I'm very excited about it. This article, like I said, didn't have anything new, but it's just a refresher. So, I'm excited about it. Now, the next article we have, I just want me some Shadow Elves. Yeah, if you guys haven't seen those, I can pause here and we'll talk about this new set coming out. I want 3 boxes of these guys. I'm not even kidding. The fire guys, I didn't know that they were my favorite until I saw them, but they combine all the things that I love, which is kind of the tribal look. Like, that's actually why the warband I have the most of is the Untamed Beasts. I really, really like the aesthetic of, oh my gosh, what are they called? The Corvus Cabal. I don't know why Corvus just fell out of my brain there for a second. Yeah, so the Corvus Cabal is actually my favorite aesthetically, but I've struggled with using them on the table, and so I like the still kind of like primal tribal feel. This guy is just baller. Look at that mask. I like it. And yeah, so this is a warband I definitely want multiples of. I'm sure that's a thrown weapon, like he's throwing a bomb sling, incendiary grenade. We got all kinds of cool stuff here. So one of the things that actually stands out to me now that I've been painting different kinds of colors is they have a wide array of skin tones in this studio paint scheme. Everything from a very pale white to tans, dark skin. And then if we go up here, we have the Shadow Elf variant, which I don't know how I feel about. Like, I love the models. I don't know if I would want to use them, although I do like this guy who's doing a little Kamehameha. Oh, man. And then there's this girl. Yeah, I like them. It's just, most elf stuff, like the dark elf stuff, it just wasn't my aesthetic. But not everything's for me, and I'm happy for people who love it. One of the things that does make me really happy, though, not so much the actual elves themselves, but if you look at their capes and you follow it all the way down, when it fades into shadow right here, that is the part that makes me extremely interested for what they're going to do with, whatever the next dark elf faction is in AOS. So, and then there's like this guy who is somehow simultaneously the lone gunman and also the guy on the grassy knoll, just being a boss. 2 guns coming at you. Question from Cody: What's the point of multiple Warcry warbands of the same? Isn't one box everything you need? Yes, it is. So each of these boxes tends to be one solid warband. So you can take them as one thing. However, if there is like a list building element to the game, and so all these units have points and that kind of thing. So once you get multiples, you can say, I want a lot of these bomber guys and this dude. I don't know what he is, but you can start then list building and tailoring to different abilities. You can lean heavily into one aspect of the list and kind of ignore others. For example, like me, with the Untamed Beasts, I love the lions. You only get one in the box, but if you have, obviously multiple boxes, you can start building a whole bunch, and they have like the lady with the whip who can give them bonus attacks, and you can kind of lean certain directions, and I think that's really cool. So, yeah. And honestly, there was a lot of criticism when Warcry dropped because a lot of folks did and still do think that the Age of Sigmar armies that got Warcry cards are just straight better than the Warcry boxes, like the one box stop for Warcry warbands that are chaos themed. And I think a lot of the issue, however, is that because you already own the army, you have all the different variants and options available, so you can do a lot more list building than folks who just grab one box of a warband can. And so I think that kind of skews the perceived strengths and weaknesses of each faction. And so it just kind of is what it is, but I do believe, with a few exceptions, Corvus Cabal is in a really rough place because they use terrain so much, and that can vary so much. But all the other ones, once you get into list building with multiple sets, I think they go toe-to-toe pretty well with AOS army ones. Gloomspite Gits is still brutal because their guys are so stinking cheap. Yeah, so that's it for the Warcry stuff. I'll move along here. The next article that came out this week was the Sons of Behemoth. We are on the crux of a big moment in history for AOS. We're getting some giants. Sorry about that. Took a sip of coffee. What we have is a cool little story about Behemoth. He is kind of like a lesser god beast, if you will. And I had this fun conversation with Brent from Rerolling Ones where, he was explaining, like, oh, this is the lore that came out today. I haven't read the entire thing, just for lack of time. But he was explaining to me, like, oh, yeah, this is, a god beast. And I was like, well, they put themselves in a rough position because Behemoth has to be cool enough to warrant his own faction. All right, and you're like, oh, that's easy. Make him a god beast, and he's cool. Give him a backstory. But the problem is, he also has to be, like, not too cool because he got punked in the first act of Age of Sigmar. Like, honestly, what is it, like the second book in the Realmgate Wars? They kill a god beast, which is not a spoiler. It's been out there for 5 years now. But, they basically, that Behemoth would eventually meet his end during the Realmgate Wars, slain by the Celestant Prime with a single blow from Galmarez. So, like, you want your guy to be cool, but not so cool that you're like, but wait, how come he's already dead? And I gotta say, that's a tough line. And then we started going down this trail of joking about how it's the equivalent if you're like god or sole leader of your faction was the dude who died in the first 3 minutes of Jurassic Park, like just the park worker who got eaten by the raptor in the opening thing, the shoot scene. That's pretty much what it's like to be a son of Behemoth. Is just, and then Brent came back and was like, well, yeah, but that's a great impetus for a story, because it sets up like what happens after his death. I was like, dude, I'm not arguing with you. It's great. I just don't, we didn't see Jurassic Park 12 of Vengeance, where Raoul's family, the guy who got eaten in the first 3 minutes, starts an army to kill dinosaurs. Although I would be down for that. Like, that's a movie I'd watch. But if you want to learn more about Behemoth, I'm getting way off topic here. If you want to learn more about Behemoth, go ahead and check out this article. It's cool. And for what it's worth, I love this artwork. Just so stinking cool. So, let me move on to the next one here. And the last one, and probably the biggest news of the week, is Legendary Battalions. So, to put it really simply, if you are... So Sons of Behemoth are Hamlet. Dude, it's been a long time since I have read anything about Hamlet, so I'm not quite sure what angle you're going with that one, but I'm going to say yes, because I'm an affirmation guy. If you have been a fan of White Dwarf and collecting them, you will have known that every once in a while, GW puts out special battalions and rules and lore, and I try to cover those, like I just did the Jaws of Mork kind of a thing. And so what this article basically does is a lot of people were questioning, Well, General's Handbook 2020 came out and it didn't have the points for those battalions in them. So are they not legal anymore, like match play legal? And essentially the way the question was posed to the FAQ team was, what do I not need to ask my opponent's permission for? Okay, in all of these special narrative battalions, they always start with like, if your opponent allows you, you can take this very, very themey thing. And so they're just basically asking, like, what can I just take? What's legal, essentially? What do I not need permission for? And so, I honestly, I think that's probably the smartest way to approach it, because they divorced the idea from matched play, narrative play. Or just, what can I just take? I think that's the best way to ask the question. So whoever asked it, rock on. And so what they basically did was went back, pulled up all of the White Dwarfs that contain very specific battalions and that kind of thing, and made them legal. Now, you do have to buy the White Dwarf, which is, honestly, most of them are digital now only. It is what it is. But if you do that, you can use them. And then my assumption, I guess, is that the points will be updated. Now, initially, I'm not gonna lie to you, I look at this and I was like, oh, that's awesome. Like, that is legitimately awesome. I know that if the Steel Souls one, what is that, April 2019, if that one was legal when I owned my Hallowed Knights Stormcast, like way back in the day, I absolutely would have built those battalions out and run that narratively. Yeah, absolutely. Same thing with the Iron Sons and Iron Jaws. I think the Ossiarch Bone Reapers one is interesting because it gives you something cool to do with Volk Morton. And, and obviously there's the host of Selesky, which is kind of the notorious Slaanesh one. But I don't hear people complaining about Slaanesh anymore, so it's whatever. All these things, really like them. I'm super on board. Then the question became like, well, how come I have to buy the White Dwarf? Like, because some of these magazines are over a year old, why can't they just, create like a $20 PDF download with all the rules? Let me buy that, put it in the app, so the rules can be right there and handy, and then we can go from there. And, I'm certainly not opposed to that. I don't know. I guess I just don't care. I don't know any other way to word it. I'm just like, they went as far as to say this thing that you wanted to use, you can now use. Now I'm not going to argue about the delivery method. It would be really nice to have them all in one place. Certainly on the app. I think that's fair to say, hey, if these are going to be legal, they really should be on the app. I'm down with that. I think that's a fair medium. But then there's people who are like, well, they're over a year old, so they should be free. It's like, nah, that's not how life works. My car is over a year old. No one's giving that away for free. You know what I mean? It's a product. They put work into it. Consider it a tip jar. I don't have a problem with that. It is more the annoyance of like access, right? Because you should be able to access all information, just like if you were to buy, the Stormcast Battle Tome on the app, you get access to all the battalions. Well, I think you should get these two as well. That's my personal opinion. So but then again, that's something that can always come through an update. So I don't get my pants in a twist. So anyway, I thought it was cool. Super excited. And it does make me, honestly, the fact that they allowed this makes me much more excited for when these things drop. Because right now, you just have to... Brian says you have to buy them to have something to show your opponent. Yeah, absolutely. Brian, yeah, I totally agree. I mean, if you're just playing with your friends and they know you're not going to cheat them, that's fine. Like, who cares? But, yeah, so, I mean, those are my thoughts. I'm really excited. It makes me more excited for when they do more of these. I did leave my comment that what is it? They're one battalion away from giving me the Maggotkin one that I want, where it's like Gutrot Spoom, and his personal band of morons just sailing through the mortal realms. That's what I want to build. So anyway, that's what I would like to see, but I think these magazines are written like 5 months in advance or something like that. So anyway, that is it for the news. Go ahead and click that down there. And like I said, between every segment of this show, I'm going to open it up to let, questions be asked, that kind of thing. And we'll just kind of go from there. I'm going to set up my little painting station here, and we're going to talk about painting motivation. So let me get some of this stuff together here. I probably should have gotten all my paints and things ready before we started, but, I was busy with the router and things. You guys hear me dropping 1,000 things, it's because I buried my little trolley with all my paints on it. Okay, good gravy. All right. Let's see. Should be an errata. Legendary Battalion rules book. Yeah, I like that. Question: Zenithal highlighting. You do it? I never do. And it's not because I'm opposed to it. I just don't always see the value. How about that? Which is ironic because the whole point is to add value. Literally, color value. All right. No, I'm not opposed to it at all. I just never think about it, to be honest with you. See. So I need that. I need that. What else do I need? Grab the orc skin. Okay, so we're gonna move in for gas money. Oh, thank you so much, buddy. Yeah. Let's see. Okay, well, let's start off with this base here. So, topic for the day. Yeah, it seems like too much. Just I'm sure people see it. I don't know if it's just my eyes. I don't, because people literally do see color differently. So I don't know if that's what it is or what. I just never saw the reason to. So now that we're here, we're going to move into our main topic. Let me get my little reminder thing for where I wanted to go, so I'm not just a rambling moron. We're going to talk about ways to motivate yourself to paint. And I want to start by saying everyone is different, and we all paint for very different reasons, whether it is just to, go to events or something like that. There are just as many reasons to paint as there are painting styles and people who paint. But the reason I wanted to talk about this specifically is because, one, it's a topic that I have had to deal with because I paint quite a bit. And it's something that has been, I don't know, if you guys are connected at all on social media, you will inevitably see a whole bunch of people asking, how do I keep motivated? How do I paint this whole army? This seems daunting, all this kinds of stuff. And so I wanted to chat about that just for a little bit. And I'm going to list off a few ways to get motivated. So try them all, see what works for you. This is also part homework and part self-discovery, so I apologize for the less introspective among us. The first thing I would suggest, if you are like, man, I just don't want to paint anything. First of all, don't batch paint. I think that's the worst thing you can do. I've done it to myself where you're like, I should be painting right now. And then I don't know why I pick up like 20 Ungor or something like that. And then I just hate myself for doing so. So don't do that. We need to ease up. So what I'm saying is set realistic expectations. If you don't want to paint, you're not suddenly magically going to paint 40 models overnight, right? So set some realistic expectations on yourself. The truth is, sometimes we just don't feel like painting. And you know what? That's okay. That's okay. Go do something else. You know, for me, my other thing that I really, really like is video games. More and more. I really enjoy Fallout 76. Really enjoy playing Total War with Jack whenever I can. It's been a crazy couple weeks. But, you know, just having things outside of the paintbrush to do for fun is normal, healthy, and I encourage it. Beyond that, though, there are some other things that we can discuss. And I've heard this idea around, and I know that Shu from Rereading Ones is a big proponent of it, of just riding your enthusiasm. So, when you feel like painting, paint all the things. When you don't feel like painting, that's when you have to set some discipline up. You have to be like, okay, well, I'm going to paint for an hour, right? I don't want to paint, but I'm going to paint for an hour. And that's something that motivates you and helps you. Man, that's awesome. It doesn't for me, I'll be honest. Putting an arbitrary time on how much I paint. I tried the 1 hour a night thing. But I just I can't do this. Apathy Kitten, welcome to Battleline. Thank you so much, buddy. Oh, that's so kind of you. Yes, it did work. Thank you. But yeah, so I just one of those things where don't force yourself. You know, if you're one of those people who this is a value that I have, you know, setting out time and making a schedule. I've seen people who make appointments. They literally will open their calendars and be like, no, I'm painting for that hour, you know, and that's cool. I don't have that kind of mentality to care enough, but I'm on board for whatever. As far beyond that, now, so those are my prefaces, right? Of just there are a few ways to go. Some people are really, really into setting schedules, and some people just need, like me, when I don't want to paint, I just need to step back and take a break. And then it'll come back around because I really do enjoy it. So now we're going to get into the ways if painting is just not your jam, how can you rekindle a flame, if you will? For me, and I'm going to go over just a few things that I was able to find online and also that worked for me. And I'll start with me because it's the one I can speak to the most. Playing games, for me, is the ultimate motivator. I know that painting itself can be a very solitary hobby. You can enjoy it. You don't need anybody else to enjoy painting. You can just sit in a room by yourself for several hours, turn on a YouTube channel, and just zone out, right? But for me personally, seeing my models on the table doing things like they have a purpose really does motivate me quite a bit. And so I'm just going to get a little bit of brown down here to make it look like the wood sinks down. Here we go. So playing the game actually motivates me, and that's something I found out because I was looking at myself in terms of why do I keep army swapping so aggressively, right? There was a time where I couldn't keep a thing in my hands. I went from Fire Slayers to Iron Jaws to getting rid of Iron Jaws because I didn't like the scheme to taking them back and doing the scheme again. And it was it was a mess. And I was like, why am I doing this? And I really do believe part of the problem was because I wasn't getting the reps in with the army. And so I was painting a whole bunch, but I wasn't getting that level of satisfaction of actually engaging with what I was doing. Right. And that, again, that's totally me. You don't I'm not a prolific gamer or tournament goer or anything like that. Casual games are my thing, and I wasn't getting them, so that was a big deal. Cody Griffin donation work. Y'all are too kind, man. Too good to me. So yeah, and that was definitely a thing on my mind. So I would say before you, get flustered or upset with yourself for your lack of motivation, just try playing a game. Doug being able to do this full time is a vicarious dream of mine. Aw, so nice. So yeah, try that out. I would definitely say start there, just with playing games with what you already own before we look at anything else. And I think that that's probably a good place to start. Beyond that, I notice that if I am ever kind of losing interest in an army, if I take the time and go and actually reread their battle tome, that helps immensely. Because again, we're in this year of our COVID era, obviously you can't always get games in. It's some people, it's very difficult for them or stores to remain open with state regulations and that kind of thing. So I there's a little bit of leeway on that one. That's why I'm kind of softening up on that, because it's just not possible for a lot of folks. But reading the battle tome, I think, is probably the next best thing. And when I'm saying that is like the battle tome provides the same kind of idea as playing the game itself, where it's like you get to read about, in this case, what this army does. When I'm painting Horticulus Slimix, or I was getting ready to, I definitely reread his entry in the battle tome about how he's this, surly little turd of a dude who doesn't really seem to like anybody. He doesn't have that same Nurgle mirth, like the happiness. And so I like that. Like, it gets me excited about like what makes this guy special, right? And you can read all about the plague bearers and how they drone on and on. And I don't know. I'm just saying, like, reading your battle tome is a great source of painting motivation. And you also get stuff like art, cool stories, of course. Oh, what else? Yeah, there's a whole lot of stuff in your battle tome. Some of them have like name generators. I guess that's more the Path to Glory stuff, but you know what I mean. So that would definitely be a source. And if you have the ability to, one thing I do really recommend is playing whatever the narrative battle plan that comes in your army's battle tome is. Give that a run. Like if you can safely, with everything going on, do that, because it not only lets you play the army, but you play it in a way that's like how it was envisioned, right? Of like, the Nurgle one is, I'm trying to poison the world and set up 3 Gnarlmaws in very specific places. It's like, oh, that's so cool, because the whole point of the Gnarlmaws is like Nurgle's garden is spreading. And I like that quite a bit. You guys are awesome. Oh, man. Horticulus Square Pants and Gary, exactly. So I think that's a really strong thing to do. The Beast of Chaos one is also a lot of fun, where you're basically trying to defend the Herdstone, or someone's trying to tear it down. I don't know. I love those kinds of missions where you're just like, this is meant to be extremely fun and flavorful, and a lot of them just work perfectly. So you got that. Another thing that I like to do, and this is less for characters, so to speak, but create stories for your units. By that I mean, I did the Ferryman. He's the fictional leader of my Maggotkin of Nurgle. Don't have a model for him yet. I was going to use the Lord of Afflictions, and I was like, no, I actually want to do something special. And so I've kind of been sourcing out parts for him for a bit now. But I want to do a really cool kit bash for him. And I was like, but just making the story for him made him bigger than I initially wanted. Like, I initially just wanted him to be like a Lord of Blights, like something very simple. But then I was like, I got really engaged with whatever narrative I was building for him, in terms of like, how he was tricked into being a servant and all this kinds of stuff. And he ended up being basically a herald of Nurgle, like heralding the coming of the Garden of Nurgle by accident. And I was like, oh, this is incredible. Like, I love it. Now I want a model to justify it. So that is a way you can do it. Now, what's interesting is if you read the GW like battle reports in White Dwarf, a lot of times they have lore for every single unit. Like they have like a named unit. This is, Gut Rot's Light Kings or something like that, where it's like a very specific kind of deal. I actually really like that blue. That actually makes a nice base. I'm going to start doing that. Instead of painting the Night Lord's blue directly over the contrast base, I'm going to start using this Ultramarines blue, because I can put Night Lords on top of that and it'll look stellar. I like this. We just learned something new together. Which brings me to my next point of try new things. I'll answer this question real quick before I move on. Question, how do narrative matches work? Are they different from normal games with story? Not terribly different. Really, the only real difference when it comes to like the narrative games in your battle tome, I assume that's what you mean. One, you have to have an opponent who agrees to play, because they do tend to favor, maybe not rules-wise, but at least narratively favor whatever army, is the battle tome's about, which makes sense. But really what it is, it's a narrative mission that is specifically designed to use all the different parts of an army. Mainly terrain is kind of how it usually pans out. So like the Beast of Chaos one, you are the Beast of Chaos and you're trying to, defend the Herdstone. When you're the Nurgle ones, I'm trying to spread the infection of Nurgle, kind of a thing. And then, and then they're very straightforward. There's no curveballs or anything like that when it comes to those missions. A lot of them are very straightforward of like, this is the objective of one player, and here's the objective of another. They function just the same. Hopefully that answers your question. I don't know how else to do it, but yeah, they really are not terribly different from normal missions. They usually just have more specific like deployments and use of terrain units and things like that. Nothing crazy. As far as my next point though that I was going to make is trying new things. So what we are watching right now is me trying a brand new method for painting Blight Kings. I have never done this before in terms of using the ultramarine blue contrast as a base color, and then I can build the Night Lord's blue on top of it. But I highly recommend you try new things. So people have sent me emails, and because folks know that I burn through armies pretty quick, or I think Vince calls it turn and burn, where I paint it up to like a 1,000 point level and then I sell it and I get a new project. And people were asking me, like, well, how can you paint that fast? And the thing is just my method, my secret, if you will, is, I don't want to word this. How can I make the most acceptable looking thing with the least amount of work? Right? So right now we're doing this contrast thing because it adds a blue layer. And I can build it up if I want with Night Lord's blue, which is what I typically do. But these guys are not super important to me because reasons. So they're good to experiment on. Extra models, essentially. So it's like, what I'm doing though is trying a new way to do the exact same look. And that kind of experimentation, I find often leads me to finding time-saving measures. All right? And essentially, if you don't like painting and you're not motivated to do it, having time-saving tricks that allow you to see results super quickly, I think is very important. Like, just, this is not the final blue that this guy is going to be. However, blocking out those colors makes me feel like I have more progress. And I don't have to do the blue next right away. And that's really awesome. I am a big proponent. Okay, this is going to be super dumb, but this is where I got this mentality from after I heard him say it. Tupac Shakur. Okay, we're going to take a hard... 2 Plus Stuff has taken a hard right turn right now. We're going to talk about Tupac. Somebody asked him how he was able to write so much music. If you don't know, he was an American rapper, I believe in the 90s. And he wrote prolific music. You know, I don't actually know when his career started. That's why I say in the 90s. It depends on when you factor his breakout stuff. But his answer was screw practice and hard work. Just get it out. And what he meant by that was have a finished product and then you can worry about details later on, right? Like he would just produce songs that weren't always the best. Even though, you know, his career was quite prolific, most of his songs really didn't ever see the charts. But he wrote so many that he learned it over time, and he basically perfected his craft by just cranking out content, production. And so I always suggest the exact same thing in terms of if you are stuck with your motivation to paint, just like I'm doing right now, just put some frickin' color on the model. Don't worry about shading, don't worry about layers, don't worry about highlights. Just put paint on a model because you will feel like you have accomplished something at the end of this time. And I hope that rambling about Tupac makes sense. But I just love that idea, that mentality of just get it out, right? Get work out there, and we can worry about perfection and improving later on. But right now, all that matters is that at the end of the day, you have something to show yourself of like, look, I can do this. This is doable. This is how much I was able to produce, you know, in a reasonable time frame. For me, it would be, you know, the hour or so that I stream. And I think that is something we kind of get lost on when it comes to, like, you know, there's a bajillion YouTube tutorials on how to do certain effects and that kind of thing, but there's not a ton of content talking about, like, the nature of productivity as it pertains to this, that psychological aspect of, like, I feel like I got stuff done today. Like when I'm going to do this guy's armor, and Bertha is what I call her, the leader, Wormspat. But, you know, and then I'm going to pause. And at the end of the day, if I were to walk away from the table at that point, I will still have felt like I got something done. And so that way, the next time I come back here to paint, it is not nearly as daunting because I understand that I can get things done. So I like that quite a bit. I love that worldview, that mentality of just forget perfection. Just get it done. Get color on the models. Camille, welcome to Mega Boss. Oh, buddy, thank you so much. You guys are being just over the top today, and I'm just very humbled. I see a pot of contrast ready to be spilled, and yes, I'm talking about your blue. No, I am one with this table and paintbrush setup. Ninjas fade into shadows. Doug uses contrast. That's just the nature of it. I am one. And you know, and again, that's kind of like a real talk thing of just, you just need to power through sometimes. But in that powering through, if you look for ways to cheat, or, and I say cheat, you know, that's kind of how I view what I'm doing now. Like, okay, well, I'm cutting out a whole bunch of layers of Night Lord's blue because I'm putting down a blue base. So if I want to come back and do the Night Lord's blue, it's going to be way quicker. You know, I don't have to, but if I want to, I can. And so I'm kind of just setting myself up for success in that sense. Oh, his intestines are hanging out. I didn't even realize that. Excuse me. Okay. So, yeah, I'm sorry. That whole long rambling point where I suddenly brought up a 90s rapper was about the idea of you just got to produce something and do it in new and creative ways so that you can show yourself this is very, very doable. Oh, thank you so much, Jacob. Blue's looking good on the armor. I like it. I didn't know that I was going to like it this much because on a lot of the examples they do with the Ultramarines blue, it's on a Space Marine. and it doesn't look that good, but Nurgle has enough cracks and spikes and, you know, like warped and buckled armor that you don't see. There's no big open spaces for the blotchiness to kind of show through. So I'm actively impressing myself. You guys don't even know. Thank you, everybody, for the blessings. Yes. So anyway, that would be kind of my first thought is, like, if you're looking at this, like, let's say you wanted to paint a big model. We'll make this very practical. Someone mentioned, let's see, I'm going to look in this chat here. Okay, so Zosie's mentioned she wants me to come paint her army. First of all, I'm on board. Secondly, if you wanted to paint your army, what I would suggest is look at your paint scheme and be like, what is the lowest, like, you know, for lack of a better term, common denominator that I can do to make this thing look like it's painted? What's the easiest way? So for mine, it is, of course, contrast. That's what I'm doing right now. I try the new blue out and that kind of stuff. But for Nagash, it might be like the... Actually, is that a... Trying to decide if this thing on her right shoulder is a hunk of armor or it's just cloth. I think it's cloth, so never mind. Yeah, I think she only has a shoulder pad. So essentially, like, you know, just what is the simplest way to throw color on this thing to make it look like it's been painted? And I think that is rad. Careful, Doug, she'll hold you to that. Bring it on. As long as I can pretend that I bought it and it's mine, and then I'll paint it really quickly in a month, and then I'll be like, and I'm done with this death stuff. Because that's what I do for literally everything else. I want her to have like a white undershirt, so let's grab that contrast here. For what it's worth, Apothecary white contrast is one of my favorite things ever. How to get Doug to paint your army, convince Doug to collect your army, then wait. Yep, that's exactly right. You have to give it to me, right? And you have to mean it. Like, Doug, this is yours, buddy. You can do whatever you want with it. And I'll be like, okay, thank you. I'll treasure this. And then I'll paint it. And as I'm painting it, you have to message me and be like, hey, Doug, if you ever decide to sell that thing, just randomly, just let me know. I would love to buy it off you. Be like, oh, okay, that's cool. And that's how you get a fully painted army from Doug. That is the extremely long and arduous commission process that I put forward. That's how I know that somebody wants my work, you know. So we're gonna give her a white kind of a gown thing, and then we'll do a tan cowl on top of her to make it match the rest. Because like my regular maggot or Rotbringers are the navy blue and like a tan to make it look like maple colors, like uniform colors. So we'll do that. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, motivation. I got my list here of ideas. One thing that I really do suggest if you are struggling to get motivated to paint, and this one sounds strange, but if possible, if space allows, leave your painting stuff all set up, or at least within very quick access. And by that I mean, if you are already on, like, you know, I'm not really feeling painting anytime, I haven't felt it in the last few days, the act of having to pull out all of those paintbrushes and paints and all that kind of stuff is arduous enough to make you like, and video games are easier, so I'm going to go do that. You know, or whatever your other hobbies are, whether it's reading or, you know, something that improves you as a person instead of like Fallout like I do. You know, those kinds of things. Then I really recommend having your paints set out so that you can just plop down in your chair and just start cranking. Again, it goes back to that thing we just talked about, is just get paint on stuff. And once you start, I almost guarantee you are going to be like, well, I can keep going. I got an extra 20 minutes. You know what I mean? I can finish this next guy. And there's just something about that that is quite nice. Let's see, I don't think... we'll make one of these dead heads. Super pale and white. There we go. Okay. Simon, oh buddy, thank you so much. Yeah, you nailed it with the video games. Yeah. For me, I'm a huge RPG video game guy, and so I get sucked into Fallout games, and Outer Worlds is the one I've been playing a lot lately. I'm just like, man, this is so much stinking fun. Okay, let's see. Give me just a moment here. Let me find the right color. Here we go. Agros Dunes. Since we're trying all these experiments with doing stuff easy, we tried the blue. We like that. Let's see how Agros Dune works for the tan. Now, I'm sure I'm going to have to build up another layer of color here, but if you guys don't know, for my Mortal stuff for Nurgle, I do an Agros Dune color, which this works as a good base. You know, it's like a slightly lighter Xandri dust, but I will have to do... This is one that, like, I will absolutely have to do a layer of Agros Dune on because it's just not the right color, but that's alright. It still gives us a good base, and it fills in some of the shadows. Like contrast do. Question, have you heard about the Great Weave AOS narrative event? I was actually just recently introduced to Weave by the gentleman who is running it. It's very, very cool. I want to look at it a bit more, because I found out that when it came to the, what's it called? Animosity campaign. By jumping into that, it was just a bad time. Like, it was a bad timing on my side. It was a great time by the people who participated. But I want to make sure that I'm not going to hop in and then just immediately flake. Like I did to those poor guys. So, but yes, I've heard of it, and I'm definitely going to check it out. So, I mean, as far as painting motivation goes, honestly, that's kind of all I got. And just to kind of recap is, I really do believe part of it is, if you need a break, take a break. This shouldn't be work, you know? Different things that motivate people are, for me, playing games. I love having games with painted models, and playing a game with painted models just gets me excited to go home and paint more models, which is awesome. I know some folks are motivated by events, like they like having a calendar full of events and that kind of stuff, and you know, right now that's a really rough place to be. I completely understand why that would suck right now, just because events largely are canceled, except for small local events, which you definitely should go to if you are able to. You know, but it's a rough place for that specific motivator, if that's what motivates you. So that's, you know, that's kind of a bummer. But you can still do stuff, you know what I mean? You can, like I said, I go the route of Tupac, of just get something out there. Throw paint on something. Like these guys, they do not look like my other Blight Kings, because I used contrast. Well, I mean, I used contrast on the skin for the other guys as a base, but they don't look like the other guys because the blue is slightly different, and so is the tan, which makes up literally all of their colors. But that's all right, because the nice thing about contrast is it's very easy to paint over with traditional paints, and we can make them fit. And I think that is definitely an important thing to have in your mind, of like, I don't need to start painting something and go all the way to the end where it looks incredible. Like, no, I just need to throw some color on something so that I feel good about what I did with my time. You know, I did painting, and then everything from there we can fix. You know, we can build up color, you can change it, you can add different layers, you can do whatever, but you gotta start. That's the only thing. You just gotta start. And honestly, I'm gonna wax poetically here for a sec. The older I get, that's honestly the more I learn, is just, you just gotta start stuff. It's the thing with YouTube channel things, it's the thing with podcasts, it's everything. Any hobby, any goal that you have, you just gotta start. Doug, have you played Witcher 3? No, I have not. I've never actually played any of the Witchers. But scenes, I'm going to write that down and put it off to the side until after we move, because I don't have time to get immersed in anything right now. Oh my gosh. Let's see, where are we at for time? We got noon. Alright, so yeah, does anyone else, I'm going to open it up here at the end. Does anybody else have any tips for motivation to paint specifically? So I'm just going to really rapid fire recap mine. Play games. That's how I get excited about an army, is I literally just see them on the table doing things, even if they die instantly, which is always going to happen with your freshly painted models. That's just the truth. Create stories for your units, like oftentimes GW will do in their battle reports. I think that's really cool because it adds a lot of character and kind of attachment, if you will. I had don't batch paint anything, just because you're not in a position to enjoy really anything about batch painting. It's not fun. Keep everything set up in terms of having things being very accessible and easy to get to will help. You know, when your brain is doing that math of, do I want to do X or Y, paint or video games or read or, you know, whatever. Keeping things easily accessible and ready to go will help you choose painting. One of the things I had here is make an appointment. For some people, they're like 1 hour a night, right? And this is my hour where I paint. Absolutely, you can do that. And then the last one here is just read your battle tome. Just get excited with the artwork and the stories and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, that is ultimately what I have for you. Anybody else? Anything that you can think of? Let's see. Music is a great motivator. Awesome. Shout out, Cody. I show my minis to my girlfriend, son, and dad. Their encouragement motivates me. That's a really good one. Yeah, if you have people in your life that would appreciate it, you know, for what you've put into it, and maybe not necessarily as, you know, they don't like Nurgle, but they can appreciate the work you've put in. Yeah, absolutely. Like that's how my wife is. I love when I show her a Nurgle model and she's like, ew, because that means I achieved the effect, right? Like, he's gross. Tip, keep it simple. Have a few models on the table and the rest out of your sight. I agree. That's actually something I suggested to Brent. If you guys have noticed, every time that I start a show, I have, 7 models on the table? This one was even actually off camera. He was just chilling up here because I don't have his base ready. You know, you have just a few, so you have a little bit of variety on what you want to work on, but the rest of it is in a tub in the closet. Because if I just have a whole bunch of plastic, like, suffocating me, it becomes very stressful. So clear your desk, clear your mind, and just focus on a thing. Absolutely, that's a fantastic tip. If you're just starting, don't compare your models to people who've been painting for years. Nathan, you nailed it, buddy. Yeah. Like, you know, this is a very reasonable result. If somebody was brand new to painting and they're like, Doug, I want to paint the drowned men, right, which is the color scheme of my army. This is exactly how I would show them. And then we're going to go over with silver and bone and pick out all the rest of it. Yeah, absolutely. So starting simple is definitely the way to go. Mojo Moo, I'd actually take the reverse sometimes, get all the bits out and see if you can make something out of it. Yeah, I'm more thinking if you have zero motivation to paint specifically, right? Like, kit bashing is, I consider it to be a little bit different, where it's like, it's just a different kind of creativity. They're both excellent. I just mean like in terms of producing painted models specifically. But yeah, you are correct. See, Zosie and I swear by audiobooks as a motivator for painting, either as an accompaniment to listen to, or dang, this is a cool story. Yeah, that's awesome. I find I get too in my head to put 100% into my painting unless I have an audiobook. That's a great point. And someone else, I'm sorry, where was it at? Chase pointed out the Tabletop Minions had a good tip to be okay with leaving something 90% done. Exactly. Yeah, and that's kind of what I was getting at, or trying to articulate with my Tupac metaphor of just get stuff done. You know what I mean? You just have to get things done, so don't worry about those little sharp details. I'm not going to worry about, each individual maggot on whatever this is. There's like 3 that I see there. I'll pick them out if it's easy, but if I don't see them when I'm painting it, I'm not going to see it when it's 3 feet away on the table, so don't worry about it. Is kind of the official 2+ tough approach. If you guys are new to the channel, I should really just do like a painting class or something like that, but basically 3 foot fabulous is kind of my go-to phrase. Whereas if you are standing in front of the gaming table and you put a model on the table, generally speaking, you are about 3 feet away from it, right? In terms of the angle and everything. So if it looks good at 3 feet, it looks good, period. And that is my thing. If you want to be a competition level painter, there are some fantastic YouTubers out there who can teach you new skills. If you're like me and you see this as a fun, engaging game piece first, and a 3-dimensional canvas to paint, second, third, or fourth, in terms of like, its level of why I enjoy this hobby, then keep it simple. Keep it simple as possible. And I think that is the way to go. Look at this guy. He's going to be so cool. He's going to be so gross. Lots of color going on here, but we'll darken him up a bit. He'll look awesome coming out of that sludge. Is this dry? Yeah, it is. Okay. So then we're just going to start throwing some Nurgle's Rot on here. And I think that's about it. So friends, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up the show today. Sorry I'm a little bit scattered because I was having so much trouble this morning getting the stream to work. But rest assured, we're going to have some good time. So I will not be live next week because we're actually traveling to Iowa to sign a lease on an apartment. We're getting ready for that big move when I go full time. So I won't be here on Friday, but I will try to have a video ready to go so you guys can watch something throughout the week. So yeah, I have a full lineup of videos coming this week. I'll schedule some for next week. And guys, the countdown has begun where I get to go full time and just share my time with you guys more throughout the day. And I'm very, very excited about it. So thank you so much, friends. I will go ahead and throw a picture of this guy done with contrast. And then I will take a picture of him done when I go back and just add another layer of detail, like with traditional paints. And you can see how easy it is with using contrast as sort of a base and wash. When you then build normal colors on top of it, just how awesome it can look. So I will show you with him because he's like one of my faves. So we'll do that. And yeah, so friends, hang in there, stay safe, live, laugh, love, whatever other, mantras you need to get through the day.